Shabbat Shalom, Chodesh Tov. You know, it's the month of Adar. It says, Keshenichnas Adar marbim besimcha. When Adar comes, we have to increase in our joy. And fascinating, the source of this teaching is actually Gemara in Ta'anit. The Gemara says, Keshem shenichnas Av mema'atim besimcha. Just like when the month of Av, the month of the destruction of the Bet HaMikdash, enters, mema'atim besimcha, we have to diminish our joy. Kach keshenichnas Adar, so too when Adar enters, marbim besimcha. We have to increase our joy. But at first glance, this Gemara is very strange. What's the contrast between Av and Adar? Gemara seems to be saying, just like in an Av, we have to diminish joy. So when Adar comes, we have to increase joy. It seems like the joy of Adar is coming for the month of Av, which is very strange. That's a month of destruction. This is a month of happiness and joy. Why is our happiness coming from there? That's question one. But question two is clear, that we always have to walk around with a sense of happiness and joy. Just in Av, we lower it. In Adar, we increase it. What's the root? What's the source of that happiness and joy that we're supposed to walk around with? So it's fascinating. You know, our sages, when they were describing a measurement called a tefach, it's a fistful. They describe two different measurements. There's a tefach sochek, a happy, laughing tefach, which is loose, which is a little bit bigger. There's tefach atzuv, a tight-fisted tefach, which is a slightly smaller measurement. And it's called atzuv, meaning a sad tefach, because it's tight. And our sages are defining for us, what is the definition of being happy or sad? Happy comes from being expanded, expansion of boundaries, breaking boundaries. Person gets married, he expanded himself. It's a great moment of joy. You have children, again, a further expansion of self, tremendous amount of joy. Grandchildren, always when a person feels that he's able to expand beyond his boundaries, that leads to joy. Sadness, on the other hand, comes from feeling held back, constricted, confined. So where does this joy of expansion constantly come from? So we say every morning, we make Berchot HaTorah, V'chaye olam nata betochenu. Hashem implanted us eternity. We walk around with a sense of joy because we realize, in a sense, we're human beings that don't have boundaries. We're created to be eternal. When we connect to eternity, when we learn, we connect to spirituality. That's where the joy comes from. There is an aspect of joy which Kohelet calls the joy of exil, the joy of a fool. You know, we can find joy by breaking boundaries. Teenagers love that. There's a sense of rebellion. Or college kids go out and party and break all the rules. And that brings joy. That's why they rebel. It's fun to break rules and break boundaries and do things you couldn't do before. But that's an immature happiness. The true sense of happiness comes from connecting to eternity, in a sense. And therefore the Bet HaMikdash was known as a place of simcha, place of joy. As we say in the Pasuk in Yeshaya, V'haveotim el har kodshiya, I'm going to bring you in the future to my holy mountain. V'simachtim bebet tefilati. V'simachtim. I will make you joyous, rejoice, make you happy in my house of prayer. The Bet HaMikdash is referred to as a place of happiness. We also say, Mishal ra'ah simchat bet ha'shoeva miyamav. Person who never experienced the joy on Sukkot in the Bet HaMikdash never saw joy in their life. Bet HaMikdash is a place of simcha. Why? Because that's the place where we connect in the deepest way to Hashem, to God, to eternity. That's the place of no boundaries, and therefore this greatest sense of joy. But in the month of Av, the Bet HaMikdash is destroyed. A connection to that place of eternity, of connection, is diminished. So a month, we lower our state of simcha. We always walk around joy because we internally realize that we have no boundaries. We're connected to eternity. But in Av, when we lost that deep connection to the makom, to the place where we connect, Bet HaMikdash, we diminish that joy. But comes Adar. Adar was a month in a sense of destruction. Haman wants to destroy every single last Jew on earth. But whatever he plotted and planned exactly happened to them. The day they wanted to destroy us, we in a sense destroyed our enemies. Haman plots to hang Mordechai, and he dies on that same tree. See, a month of Adar reveals to us that whenever we see destruction, tragedy, when things befall the Jewish people, they're there to reveal, in a sense, they're leading us to Yeshua, to salvation. And that we saw in the month of Adar. That was the greatest joy of Adar. That we thought all these terrible things were happening to us. And we recognize in the end that it was all for our benefit. Because they appointed a day to wipe us out, that was the day we were able to wipe out our own enemies. And Haman, whatever he plotted, was in a sense to bring himself to his own downfall. And we saw that in Adar. So the destruction leads us to joy. And we recognize the destruction of Bet HaMikdash is also temporary. And ultimately will lead us to the day of Az Yemaleh Sechokfinu. Then our mouths will be filled with joy in the future. When we recognize everything that happened through all the trials of history and tribulations and difficulties, in a sense, where we lead us, we're the catalyst to our Yeshua, to our salvation. That's the month of Adar. That's the month of joy. As the Sefer Yetzirah says, every month corresponds to a certain character trait. And the month of Adar corresponds to laughter. It's a month of Simcha. So as we look at the world and all the challenging things that are happening to us, Adar reminds us that all the chaos that is happening in the world today, and it says ultimately will lead us to our Yeshua, to our salvation, to lift us up. And that's the sense of joy. Shabbat Shalom and Chodesh Tov.